When I was 12, my dad accidentally left my mom at a rest area and we drove 250 miles before we realized she was gone. What's your Christmas horror story? My mother died in late August 2006. That Christmas, I knew that everyone would have a hard time as Christmas was mom's favorite holiday, so I bought everyone pornography and wrapped it in boxes of all shapes and sizes. Once Christmas morning came around, everyone found gifts filled with blacktail and barely legal. It was weird at the time, but now everyone refers to it as the time Ryan bought everyone pee, which is what I was hoping for. Oh my god. Didn't get it at first, but you are a genius. My wife had a miscarriage yesterday, so my 6-year-old daughter and I need to remember which presents under the tree are baby related today and go hide them away somewhere. It'd probably be a good idea to use a pocket knife and ease open the wrapping on the presents to double check. It can be taped over and not look tampered with. I did this a lot as a kid. So sorry for your loss. For Christmas when I was very young, I got a package of Lifesavers in my stocking along with lots of other candy. I had a thing for mint back then, so I was munching on those in my room as I put away my new stuff. I got overzealous with a Lifesaver and swallowed it whole. It lodged completely in my throat, and I was breathing through the tiny hole in it, but barely. I kept trying to swallow, but it was incredibly painful, and I couldn't yell. I remember not being able to get the door open for some reason, and it felt like the Lifesaver was twisting in my throat, cutting off my air supply. I couldn't cough or anything. My vision started dimming when suddenly my mother came in the room to see why I wasn't coming back downstairs, and thinking like a freaking ninja, brought a fist down on my back without asking any stupid questions, and the Lifesaver popped out of my throat into my mouth. I lay on the ground gasping for breath. She snapped a picture, said she was glad I didn't die, then went downstairs to tell the family that I almost died on a mint. No, I don't have the picture anymore, and every year my mom gives me a pack of Lifesavers and tells me, try not to die this time. 7th grade, I had an anomaly growing within my neck. Turned out to be this terrible infection. Ended up having the left side of my neck, under my jaw, balloon about 12 inches. Was so delirious from meds infection I spent most of Christmas thinking I was a tree. I hope your family decorated you, at least. My older sister Kelly was an utter bee in high school. The year she was 16 and I was 13, she was giving my broke butt mom a hard time about never ever getting a decent Christmas gift and how mom's taste is crap and just all this crap. Kelly's the oldest of 6 kids in a broke family. Sorry you didn't get expensive crap for Christmas. Now get over it. But she just wouldn't get it. Somehow my mom convinces herself that Kelly is right and she's going to make this year perfect for her. So they go through a department store and Kelly points out 7 or so things that she wants for Christmas. Any of those 7 things would make her happy. My mom goes back and buys all 7 to really blow her mind, and then lets it slip that Kelly's just going to be so happy because she's getting everything she wanted. On Christmas Eve, mom's wrapping all of the presents and realizes that she only bought me one thing. She figures 6 perfect gifts are still good and puts my name on one of them. Christmas morning, Kelly's unwrapped her presents and I'm on my second one. I unwrap some board game. I don't remember what it was, and Kelly flips out. Since she'd been expecting all of the presents, to not get one, and especially to be subjected to the horror of seeing someone else unwrap it, was just too much tragedy and she throws a truly epic fit. I try to give her her stupid board game. I didn't want it, but no, the damage is done and Kelly will never ever recover. I think I just talked myself out of mailing her a last minute gift this year. Haha, the last sentence is golden. My mom decided to wean my sister off her pacifier. Long story short, neighbors called the police on suspected child abuse because of the sheer volume of my sister's temper tantrum as my mother calmly ignored her. Merry Christmas, neighborhood. On the other side of things, when my mom decided it was time for me to give up my pacifier, she told me I had to leave it under the tree for Santa in order to get gifts. It totally worked and I never wanted it again. True Christmas spirit. I was about 14 when suddenly my cat went missing. We searched the whole house. The problem was, we could hear him moaning and crying as if he was stuck between the walls or in another dimension. Turns out the poor thing spent the whole afternoon in the fridge. I hate it when my cat gets stuck in another dimension. When I was young I lived in Iowa. Every year we would go out and cut down a tree to use as our Christmas tree. Well, one year we put our tree up and a few days after all these brown specks kept appearing on the ground. My mom continuously swept them away, but they would always reappear. Then, one of my mom's friends came over to our house and told her that the brown specks were baby spiders. The tree we had cut down had a spider nest in it, but luckily the spiders would die immediately after they hatched out of the eggs. We quickly got rid of the spider-infested tree and had our house cleaned, and ever since then, we have been using a fake Christmas tree. When I was 4, after we had all gone to bed on Christmas Eve, my 1-month-old sister began having issues breathing and had to go to the hospital. My parents rushed there, but they had not wrapped any of the presents, so my aunt and uncle came over and wrapped all of the presents in the middle of the night. By morning, my sister was stable enough that my dad came over to help us unwrap presents, while my mom stayed at the hospital. Being 4, I was only vaguely aware of what was going on. TLDR. Newborn sister quit breathing on Christmas Eve. That selfish girl. Younger sisters are always little attention seekers. This is not about me, but my mom. When my parents were dating, 17-18, married by 20 I think. So this would have been sometime between 1980 to 1982. My mom was driving to my dad's house to spend Christmas with his family. A drunk driver hit my mom about a mile away from my dad's house. The driver T-boned her on the driver's side door. She lived, but as a result of this crash, my mom has a large chunk of her left bicep missing, as if a shark took a big bite out of her. And as a result of her losing almost half of her blood from all the combined injuries of the crash, she had many blood transfusions. Now blood was not tested nearly as rigorously as it is today, and my mom was given a transfusion infected with hepatitis C. She has hepatitis C. Neither me nor my older brother were born with it, and she made sure that they tested us for that crap like crazy. As a final result of this, my mom no longer travels on Christmas Eve. You either come to our house, or you don't see us. TLDR. Drunk driver hit my mom on Christmas Eve. She lost a fuckload of blood, got a tainted blood transfusion. My dad still married her. She no longer drives during the holidays. That Christmas proved that your dad deserves your mother's love, at least from that perspective. It's kind of beautiful, really. Christmas Eve 04, my mom took too many pain pills, passed out in Santa lingerie in living room. Wake up Christmas morning to find mom still in a strange catatonic state, half sleeping, half jamming on chips and salsa and wondering what the frick is happening. I like the cut of your mom's jib. My father, a long-time alcoholic, had finally killed himself on the stuff at the end of November, right before Thanksgiving, and for an entire month, all of our Christmas money was put into a fund to pay for the cremation of his remains. If we did not come up with the $2,000, then his body would have been turned over to the county, and he would have been turned to ash with a dozen other unclaimed bodies. We made the cut, and got his cremation paid for. Our entire Christmas was paying for my father's ashes. At least he looked nice under the tree. I'm so sorry this happened to you. About 5 years ago, my cousin, same age as me, grew up together, got mistaken as twins all our childhood, died on the 12th of December from some sort of sudden diabetic coma in his sleep at 20 years old. Family members finally took pity on his mother and took her Christmas tree down sometime after Valentine's. That pretty much ruined Christmas forever after, and Halloween. His birthday was the 31st of October. My brother was doing some tricks on his rollerblade, his Christmas present, and figured out how to grind. He told me to watch him do it. He started to grind, but I got distracted by something, I don't remember what, causing me to miss the stunt. My brother tries to show me again and breaks his arm. Spend the rest of the day plus one more in the hospital. My family blamed it on me. Scumbag family. Little bro freaks up, blames it on you. I realized I had food poisoning when my family and I were at a Christmas Eve service, pieced out of there, and spent the rest of Christmas Eve puking and pooping everywhere. The next morning, I finally realized I probably had to go to the hospital and spent the rest of the day there. Capped the evening off with good news, a suppository. TLDR. Got sick, put pills up my butt. Best Christmas ever. I had food poisoning, although not requiring hospitalization, but it was still quite nasty. My cousin, flying in from abroad, was detained at customs and thrown into jail overnight for having missed a court date. I think this was also the season where my grandpa died and my cousin's dog got run over by a car on my mom's birthday 2 weeks later. I wish I were making this up. Not really a horror story, but weird nonetheless. I went to an all-girls school in high school. One day in December they set up a little backdrop where you could pay $1 to sit on Santa's lap and get your picture taken. Santa was the creepy butt janitor. God, there are a lot of tragic stories here. I was hoping this would be more lighthearted. The true Christmas horror story I had was when I was 23. My brother was killed in a car accident driving to work on Christmas Eve. We spent Christmas Day picking out a coffin for him. Dang, this hit me like a ton of bricks realizing that one of the kids in the story was the brother you speak of. Last Christmas our whole family caught the flu and everybody threw up except for my dad. We all laid around the whole day dehydrated and miserable. But looking back on it, I'm glad we were all able to feel miserable together. You know what they say, misery loves company, ha ha ha. My Christmas horror story happened way back in 1978 at a little hospital in Indiana. I was born and cursed with having the worst birthday imaginable. I hope you enjoy your present. It's for Christmas and your birthday. Rare thread that I read every post. I suppose that means I enjoy others' suffering. Also, stay the frick away from IR at Christmas. Haha, wow, that's pretty bad. It reminds me of that one time my dad intentionally left my mom stranded at the mall because she was taking too long. Let's just say, we ate canned beans for about a week. I had to drive my mum 200 miles round trip on Christmas Eve 2009 to have radiation treatment at the cancer clinic. At the same time I was dealing with a bipolar depressive phase that was becoming so severe I was hearing voices and prone to paranoia. That sure was one fun Christmas. I'll tell you what, my mom's fine now, and I'm feeling pretty good these days. I'm really glad your mom got better. I had to go through the same thing with mine. My grandmother passed away about 2 AM Christmas morning. She had been in the hospital for about 3 months. Broken hip, in and out of surgery, it was her time. My mother was there when she passed, and went as peaceful as we could have hoped. My mom gets home about 3. I hear her come in and give her a big hug. She's bawling. The rest of my family was asleep, and have no idea. We both went to bed, and I woke up early the next morning and my little brother, 9 or 10, was downstairs giddy as he can freaking be because it's Christmas morning, and he has no idea what has happened. When my mother eventually gets up he's even more excited because that means it's present opening time. My mother has to sit my little brother down and tell him yeah, I died last night. To see his face go from an ecstatic happy giddy freaking not a care in the world Christmas morning joy of a little kid to just the utter devastation and sadness of our grandmother's death was the saddest thing I have ever witnessed. It still, as I'm writing this, can make me tear up. This exact same thing happened to our family when I was 10 and my brother 7. My parents waited till the 26th to tell us what happened. It was Christmas morning and I believe I was around 6. I think that's kindergarten in America, while my older sister and brother were 16 and 14. For the next 3 hours, we were in charge of watching the oven with the ham in it to make sure there wouldn't be a fire while we were making Christmas cookies because our parents had to go pick up a few things. Being young and having my first session with baking, I made a gigantic mess. My older sister had to sit me on the counter of the bathroom on the first floor because I had cookie dough all over my face and in my hair. The cookie dough tasted like cinnamon and nutmeg. It smelled amazing. My older brother had to finish the baking on his own while my sister cleaned me up after she noticed I started to eat the dough out of my hair. After I get cleaned up, my sister and brother go continue playing Final Fantasy VII on the old PlayStation while I sat on the couch and watched. They were at the part where they watched Aerith died. I remembered smelling a strong smell of cinnamon and nutmeg and I fell asleep. I don't know how long I was asleep for, but I remember waking up to fire alarms and my siblings yelling at each other and scrambling to figure out how to use the fire extinguisher. I jumped off the couch, grabbed my pail and tried to fill it up with water from the bathroom, but I couldn't reach. After a loud shhhi noise, my sister grabbed me and ran outside of the house. "What's happening?" I questioned in a cuter, less articulate way. My brother just said that we were in trouble. I started crying. It wasn't long that our parents got home and the entire mess was discovered, but I was happy that I didn't get punished at least and that the house didn't burn down. I finally got to play Final Fantasy VII for a bit though. TLDR. House almost burned down when I was 6. The way you describe the smells is so charming. Great story. Me and my family were traveling several hundred miles to visit relatives over the holidays. About halfway there I managed to somehow get my elbow jammed into this cubby type compartment where the passenger side airbag would be in today's cars. Well, I had lodged it in there so well that we had to go to the nearest emergency room where the terrified nurse had to lube up my arm in order to get it out. This should be read by minute. Well done. I'll play. 1986. I was 15. It's Xmas Eve and my family is sitting around enjoying the Xmas cheer when my brother-in-law calls to wish us a Merry Christmas. D. Oh, did I mention that 9 months earlier, he faked his own death by killing a hitchhiker and burning the body in the back of his car? Alright, I'm interested. Tell me more. We went out to eat dinner a few days before Christmas and returned home after our meal. I opened the outer door and saw a small pool of water in the entryway. I thought that was a bit odd, but it could have been some melted snow, so I didn't think too much of it. I started to open the inner door and that's when I heard an odd noise. I step in and see water running down the walls and the floor is covered in about a 1/2 inch of water. Running wading through the house trying to find the source. We eventually find it's the upstairs bathroom and get the pipe shut off. It turns out the Dachshund decided to try to get into the trash and tip the trash can. It fell perfectly, severing the input hose to the toilet. We figure it was spraying water for around a half hour before we got home. Surprisingly, there wasn't too much damage as the water mainly went through to the linoleum parts of the house. But it wasn't very fun having to clean half the house days before Christmas. TLDR. My dog flooded our house. My dad got appendicitis on Christmas Eve, went to the ER around 3 AM, and had his appendix out on Christmas Day. Best part was my mom worked a 12-hour nursing shift on Christmas Eve, and had gotten home at around 9 PM. She had to drive him to the ER, and was still up at like 9 AM. Fun times. I had horrible cramps one Christmas Eve and was unable to move or get out of bed. So to avoid my having to miss our Christmas, my mother gave me a couple of her muscle relaxers. Her really strong muscle relaxers. I tried to help carry in presents but ended up falling in the snow where I proceeded to roll around like an idiot and smash the presents I was carrying. Then I got inside and enjoyed a few glasses of wine and made sure I talked to every single relative I could about everything and anything inappropriate. Finally, my uncle was able to figure out what the heck was wrong with me and made sure my crazy talk was contained and I was babysat for the remainder of the night. Our house was robbed while we were out. Everything, presents, furniture, TV, jewelry, family memories, everything was taken. This was before the internet, in 1987, where people could post their horrific stories and have hundreds of people be kind to them, so we went without any place to sit, any presents or tree, anything really. I was only 10 at the time, so it was pretty traumatic. I hated Christmas for a while. That is horrible. So sorry you had to go through that. Not really horror, but when I was about 8 or so, this is one of those vivid memories. My mom brought home the Christmas tree home and left me with my sister and said, "Honey, I am going to get the decorations. Be nice to your sister." So I went to the bathroom to find a box of tampons on the toilet. Not knowing what they were, I assumed the strings on the end were for decorating a tree. I took every tampon from the box and decorated the tree. Needless to say, Mom came home and was shocked. She'll tell that story at your wedding. My friends and I found a really cool vine back in the woods and it was a blast pretending we were stunt men swinging over the small ravine it hung over. It turns out the hairs all over the vine should have been a clear indicator that it was poison ivy. Yay for Christmas in the hospital. My Christmases were great, going from house to house opening my presents. I would always get tired when the other families would come to open their presents. That's why there were never any presents under our tree, because the other families already came and got theirs. I am not aware of that tradition, Mac. In fact, I think that you and your parents were just stealing from that home. I think it was Christmas Eve or thereabouts. I was young and my dad was out of town for business, just mom, my brother and sister, and I at home. I was playing with a $50 my uncle got for me that year and my mom went to change my diaper. She lifted my legs up and the coin slipped out of my hands and made a beeline for my mouth. I apparently tried to swallow it and it got stuck. Then with my brother on the phone, he was 7 or 8 at the time, with 911 my mom does the Himmlich SP on me and, lucky for me, out comes the coin. What they don't tell you is with that move most of what you just had for dinner can come up as well. With that crisis over, my mom put us to bed. Shortly after she went to bed herself. At one point she woke up hearing what sounded like thunder. Seeing nothing out her window, she went back to sleep. About an hour later she wakes up only to see and hear fire ripping through the window above her bed. At that point no smoke alarms had gone off. She rushes and wakes us kids up, gathers me up in an Afghan, and runs for the door. Now we lived in the back half of a duplex, so she makes sure to get the other resident out because she apparently thinks she can fight the fire that is making her drapes look like waterfalls in Hades. We run down the street to a friend's house. I can still remember the rain AMD seeing flaming jeans flying over the fence. We get to the friend's house and call 911. While we huddle there, my mom waits for the firefighters to come. They ask for her keys so they can move her car away from the house, which is now fully in fire. She tells them that the dog was left in the kitchen and fortunately they were able to get him out. The fire is put out but the house has been gutted. We are left with the clothes on our backs and the bears the fireman gave us on an early Saturday morning with almost no cash. Banks were no open on the weekends back then. Well, my dad gets back and my siblings go to school that Monday. I go to my babysitter's. When my mom comes to pick me up, my sitter hands her an envelope that says, "Merry Christmas." Inside is 10 brand new $100 bills, which gave us enough to get a hotel and everything until we could get to the bank and sort everything out. We never found out who helped us out, but that is our Christmas story. I could go on about the hotel and all, but that is out of the scope of this question. Also, forgive some errors, I'm tired and in my phone. TLDR, I almost died twice Christmas Eve. Final Destination comes to mind. My sister and I had this orange kitten we named Milo, and, like all kittens, Milo loved warm places. So, when Dad fired up the Cadillac on Christmas Eve to go and buy a couple more last minute presents for us, Milo was sitting on the warm engine and his head was ripped apart by the fan belt. Dad felt horrible, but there was nothing he could do. The cat died instantly in a whirl of fur and rubber, and there was no way he could have known the cat was in there. Our Christmas morning surprise was a dead kitten. Or, if you prefer the abstract version, Santa ran over my cat with his sleigh. Haha. We had kittens that like to do that, too. One of them spent nearly 50 kilometers driving the motorbay of our neighbor's car. They only realized it when at their destination a very familiar and extremely confused dirty little cat was crawling out from under their car. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.